Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The real reason why you feel like you keep starting in life. This one is going to be personal for a lot of us, and that's why we need to talk about it, right? So, welcome to the series where I do a sort of astrological diagnosis, and we keep these bite size. I still do my longer segments, and I'm still figuring out the schedule, but I enjoy talking about those long spirituality conversation that of course no one listens to, but it's okay. It serves a higher purpose, and those who are interested in those topics, I believe that they will find them. But I wanted to make this episode, this series, highly highly, focusing on every episode, focusing on one point because I want to drive a point home, and also because these are problems that I tend to hear a lot, that my clients used to struggle with a lot, and really much problem that I see that people talk about and complain about on the internet. So I bring up these emotional state, these state of internal, oopsie, of internal chaos, and we use astrological reason to make sense of them. And today we're talking about the real reason why you feel like you starting over again. I have my notes here because we're trying to keep us on point. I don't want to drift into a 1 hour monologue, right? And let's get started. If you keep starting over in life, this is for you. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. This is the point of life. We're here to constantly evolve and shed skin and grow into a bigger version, bigger, better version of ourselves. Now, bigger doesn't necessarily mean, be bigger in like the egocentric way, but I mean bigger as in more elevated and with more consciousness, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we're here. But there's a big B. We're humans, right? It can be frustrating to feel like you're always starting over again. And I wanted to talk about and explain, bringing some awareness about a major reason why that can happen. And that could be, hello, the one that needs no introduction. That is Mr. Pluto himself. Drum roll, please. Pluto. Now, I'm gonna be this is my disclaimer here. While everyone is scared of Saturn, my beef is Pluto. I feel like this is about to change and shift very soon. For sake of disclaimer, I am going through like a major Pluto transit myself in the first house. This one is crucial. That's why I talk about this one a lot, but thankfully I'm in the last degree. So you can expect more content on that also, because when you go into like a Pluto transit, every degree is kind of different. And you also have a segment that is like the beginning where things are starting to hit the fin and you're like, hold up, what's going on? And then you have the middle area, which is kind of like a peak. And then you have the ending, which is not really it's where you kind of over it and you're like, give me a break already. But Pluto is just hammering, just, driving the last point home and pretty much consolidating everything. And now that doesn't mean when you're going to like a Pluto transit that you're gonna, because Pluto transit lasts a very, very, very long time. We're talking about like, could go up to like 2 decades. So that doesn't mean that you're gonna have 2 decades of hell. There's like sometimes the pressure picks up, it cools off. You could see it as a sort of valley, low and highs, but that's generally Pluto. Pluto is not in a rush. Pluto is not in a rush. If you thought Saturn was crazy, Saturn is nothing compared to Pluto. Saturn is still very reasonable. Saturn transits last, 2.5, 3 years around there, depending on the house, because again, the houses are not all the same size, and depending on retrogrades and all that stuff. But Saturn's generally, it's like, okay, you could see the end in sight. But Pluto is just, it's about, all right, my love, let's get comfortable because I'm not in a rush. This is Pluto. So often, if I have clients, well, we all going through a Pluto transit. Every single person is going through a Pluto transit. However, that means that we don't all go through the same Pluto transit in a specific lifetime because Pluto transit lasts so long. Think about it. Let's say, for the sake of simplicity, a Pluto transit lasts 20 years, right? And then you have 12, like, again, give or take. Then you have 12 houses. Let's be honest, we don't live 240 years, right? And we don't live that long in a lifetime. And we don't even live in general like 120 years. So that means that we're not all going to experience the same Pluto transit in the same house through a lifetime. That is often another reason why you can feel misunderstood. And I know people that are transiting, you know, that are going through like different Pluto transit, they often feel that way. And that's because not everyone is on the same curriculum as you, right? And again, every house in the zodiac is pretty much representing a different flavor. The first house is the self, the fourth house is, family and stuff like that. This sort of really deep family and inner child issues that are kind of coming out again that you have to revisit, and safety and all that stuff. And then you have the 10th house, which is all about career, work, and your contribution to, like, the outside world. So of course, if Pluto is transiting, you can already see this. These are two different flavors. So when you feel like you're starting over and over again, to be honest, that's gonna be the feeling that's gonna come with Pluto transiting all the houses, because Pluto is about, I want to say, my petty self wants to say destruction. But okay, I'm really learning to love Pluto. Honestly, this is still gonna be like it's a process. So, but we're keeping it real, okay? Pluto is about death and rebirth. Pluto is about it is about destruction for the sake of rebuilding. So when you're going through a Pluto transit, you're always going to feel like you're starting over again. But today I wanted to put the emphasis on Pluto transiting your 10th house. This is what I find that a lot of clients really are focused about, because it's so many of us are so focused on work validation, career validation. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The problem is when anything is taken to the extreme. Like, everything is in life, we should strive to be balanced, because no extreme energy is good. But this is where a lot of people tend to feel that whenever they hit a plateau at work, or they were climbing the ladder at work steadily and sometimes aggressively, and boom, all of a sudden, someone gets fired, God forbid. Or what we have to understand is, we don't really tend to see that, or have the perspective while we're going through that, which is why you need help, which is why you need to have your own support system. On that note, all my links are down below. You could definitely come and see me if you feel like you're going through like a Pluto transit. Please do not go through this alone. But again, those Pluto transits are there to redirect you. They're there because often you're not even going in the direction, on the path, that your soul kind of set up to travel through in this lifetime. And those Pluto transit, because Pluto is the outermost planet in our solar system. And I really like that perspective. Pluto has a bird eye view that we don't have. So Pluto, I like to see Pluto in a way. I feel like the worst of my beef against Pluto is behind me now. Now I can start slowly getting a different level of perspective that comes through after you've gone through a certain Pluto transit. And I'm telling you, Pluto transits can be very brutal, but it's understanding that Pluto has a certain bird eyes view that we don't see. So this is how, we can see Pluto as the guardian of the galaxy. No, but Pluto is like the guardian and the keeper of all things in a way, right? Of our evolution. And this is why whenever we're going through a Pluto transit is for our soul correction. It's often because that is what we need. This is where we have the most imbalance, and this is where we can get the most growth. Again, my astrology is pretty much always coming back to the soul, always coming back to the deeper picture, the greater evolution. It's not just, things happening to you randomly. Everything has a purpose and nothing is random. So once you understand that, and that's why you need to know your birth chart. It is your responsibility to know that, because it's otherwise you're doing life blind. Like I don't understand, like, why would we not want to utilize these tools, right? And because they are there specifically for you. So again, Pluto transit in your life is going to show up as a reset, many resets, many mini resets, culminating to a huge transformation when you look back and you're like, oh my God, what a ride that was, right? Again, it goes without saying, lots of endings, but we have to remember endings open up new beginnings, right? When a door closes, it's a redirection. It's gonna open up another door. Often, if not always, something that is even better and bigger and that you couldn't even have imagined. But we need to create those space in order to make space for the new to come in. It's like the furnitures in your house, right? You can't change and have new furnitures if you don't get rid of the old ones and create space. So in a way, this is how Pluto works. Pluto comes in a little bit dramatic, maybe. Pluto just comes in and burns down all of the old furnitures to the ground. Pluto has no, like, let's just burn everything down so we can just start replacing with new and improved furniture. And for you, that would be a new and improved internal system, empowerment, worth, development, career development, self worth. Like, it's just, Pluto is just a wild beast, honestly. And to me, what makes Pluto so intense is it's relentless. It's the fact that it's such a slow burn, like slow burn. And this is what I find so fascinating, right? It's just the intensity, you being tested on your stamina, the intensity, and it's just Pluto has all the patience in the world. At the same time, it has, at the same time, it's ruthless. That's all I can think about. Ruthless. Pluto comes knocking at your door. It's not gonna be nice. It's not gonna, "Oh, I'll take it easy on you." No, Pluto comes in, gets the job done, and it's brutal. I'm not gonna be sugarcoating this. It is brutal, and that's why you need to know. And often I'm just gonna throw these nuggets in there. Something that I'm really coming to term with, and we need to say that the only way to make a Pluto transit easier is through surrender. Now, I feel like this is such a big solution, the big troubleshooting nugget that I'm throwing out there. I probably have to make a special episode just on that. But the reason why we all, myself included, we all struggle with Pluto transits is because we're holding on. We're holding on so tight, we don't want to let go. But if you don't want to play Pluto's games, because I actually feel like this is also where I am in my life right now, as Pluto is transiting in the last degree of my first house. I'm not playing Pluto's games anymore. I'm over it. After being burned down and so many deaths and rebirth, that's it, you get it. And once you get to that point where you totally surrender, I feel like this is when you can start driving with Pluto on a much higher level, right? It's just absolute surrender. But before you do that, before we get there, there is a lot of friction, a lot of frustration, and a lot of all sorts of emotions that you're gonna go through. That's just the that's just the journey. That's just how it works. Again, which is why you cannot go through this alone. Pluto transits are no jokes. Okay. If you actually, like I said, every single person goes through a Pluto transit, but you need to know where is Pluto transiting, which house is it transiting for you. So you could definitely book a session with me, and then so we can figure this out together. On that note, my love, I am sending you so much love and compassion through your Pluto transit. Again, you don't have to do this alone. And in the meantime, keep shining bright like a diamond. And I will see you in the next one, my love. Bye.